Good morning. Everybody can hear me? Now when we are assigned to the correct pictures. Um, so my name is Lucie Brigham. I'm here on behalf of the United Nations Office of Partnerships, and I will be moderating our next panel. And first of all, I would like to thank Marcelo and his wife for inviting the United Nations to join the event today. And thanks, Jordan and Marcelo, for having us here. And I would like to also thank them for curating a conversation-specific panel that is going to focus on a conversation on the intersection of fashion, sustainability, and impact. In the next 30 minutes, we are going to talk about the impact of the fashion industry on the world around us, and we were going to deep dive a little bit on some strategies and initiatives that are working to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And before I introduce our all-female panel, I am going to speak briefly about what the goals are. What are the Sustainable Development Goals? So in 2015, the member states of the United Nations got together and decided to define the most pressing challenges of today's world and came up with the 17 goals. We call them the Sustainable Development Goals. And what they are, they basically present a blueprint of where we need to be to make sure that planet and our population is not spinning out of control. So they include issues such as poverty, education, access to quality healthcare, but also address issues such as climate change, and perhaps the most relevant for this audience, it addresses the issue of responsible consumption and production, equality, inclusion, and partnerships. These goals as a blueprint, they have been adopted in 2015, and they are engaging everyone. When they were designed, they were designed as being universal, meaning relevant in the least developed countries as well as in communities here in New York or your hometowns, and interconnected. So by working on sustainable, responsible production and consumption, you have also impact on several other goals. And they provide a platform for engagement and also help businesses to understand what needs to be done to move in the right direction. And that's where our office comes in. So at the United Nations Office of Partnership, we serve as a global gateway for engagement with the United Nations. And we connect companies, foundations, nonprofits, media, influencers, with the relevant partners in the United Nations systems with the overall objective to trigger change and partnerships that are needed to have a positive impact on the world. If you have heard Simon, the speaker earlier today, he said we need to figure out how to be really wild and catalytic. And as I cannot really use this language at the UN, I fully agree with that. We need to have catalytic, high-scale, large solutions that are really going to trigger a change. And we are not engaging through shaming. It's definitely not the right way to go, but we are working through engagement. We bring to the United Nations some of the umbrellas, industry organizations, companies that are driving the change, that are doing something meaningful, and recognizing what they do, and also inspire others to follow their suit. And with that, I'm going to turn to our panelists. We have the three ladies that have been already working and demonstrated their commitment to sustainability through their businesses. We have with us Kimberly, Amanda, and Thania. Kimberly Haisch is the founder and CEO of KBH Jewels. Amanda Gomes is a co-founder of Satya Beachwear, coming from Brazil. And we have Thania Peck, who is the blogger and also founder of Catcher in the Style. So I would like to ask first round of questions. Can you please briefly introduce yourself? What is the company doing? And then in the second round, I would like you to focus on what drove you there, what was the trigger that motivated you to start the business?
Hello. Can you guys switch to My name is Kimberly Haisch, and I am the CEO and founder of KBH Jewels, and we are a sustainable fine jewelry line. And what that means is that everything that we do is rooted in circular practices. All of our materials, all of our sourcing, how we make the product, how we ship the product is done with sustainability at the heart of everything. Our goal was to kind of start a new tradition in the fine jewelry industry that becomes the standard for next generations. Kind of the way maybe our parents' generation didn't recycle, but now it's something that everyone does. I think there are a lot of secrets or things that people don't know about fine jewelry or jewelry in general and how detrimental mining is to our environment. And it's kind of bringing that to light and trying to set a new standard of how we move forward. And a part of that is that it's fine jewelry, so it's got to be product first. Investment-worthy pieces should be both luxe material and sustainably made. You can't sacrifice quality. So, you know, if fashion is, or luxury is the best of everything, the best design, the best materials, it also now needs to mean, or should have always needed to mean, what's best for the health of the world. And we don't really have that right now. Quickly, I know we don't have a lot of time. I think a lot of people don't realize the detriment. People are more familiar with diamond mining and how, and they've heard the stories of how that affects, you know, everything from people to the environment. But I think a lot of people also don't know the detriment to gold mining. In the U.S. alone, the Environmental Protection Agency, year after year after year, says metal mining is the #1 toxic polluter. It's kind of the sole reason we have mercury pollution. And once you put mercury into the environment, it never breaks down. Gold is a natural, renewable resource. And so when I started to dig deep into this, I didn't understand why we weren't just recycling it, because you can recycle gold over and over again without any quality degradation. And that was really the root of where we started. But I wanted these materials to be in pieces that I wanted to wear every day and the pieces that I wanted to pass on to my children. And that's what we set out to do.
Hi everyone, as you know, my name is Amanda and I am founder and creative director of Satya Beachwear. So as we know, the fashion industry is the second larger polluter in the world, and 80% of this pollution comes from synthetic dyeing. So that's why we decided to work with natural dye and nylon biodegradable. So natural dye is made by plants such as turmeric, annatto, peel onion, and red root, and everything that you can find in the natural. And nylon biodegradable is a technology developed in Brazil. So we have we have a technology inside the yarn. So when our garments goes to the landfill, they will decompose in 3 years, which means 15 times faster than the common one. So that's why we decided to
Thank you, Amanda. Tanya.
Hi guys, my name is Thania Peck. I am a fashion lifestyle blogger, and I started my company 6 years ago, and a couple of years ago, I was looking for somebody that was speaking about sustainability, and I couldn't find that person, so I had to become that person. And that's what led me to work with the UN on the SDG goals. And the textile industry is the largest polluter, and it's a part of fashion, transportation, and home. And that's something that we don't necessarily talk about because we don't hold home and transportation accountable in the sector of that 10% emissions that are going to carbon emissions for textiles. So I just kind of started learning more about it, started sticking up for the humans that are behind our clothes, you know, like who's making your clothes? You've got to ask yourself that and hold brands accountable, and that's what I've been doing. So I meet with brands and kind of ask them where they're at. If they're not working on any initiatives, I ask why, because why not? You know what I mean? We should be working towards the greater good, and we can only work together in doing so.
The next round of questions, I will start with Tanya. I have prepared some quotes that I would love to demonstrate that by not even knowing, all of us are working on sustainability and having impact through our everyday action with the decision on how we live, what we buy, how we commute. We are shaping the future of the future generations. Yeah, shaping the future of the generations that are to come. So, Thania, you can only fail by not doing stuff. That's what you said and wrote. Can you please help us understand how do you view the goals? How do you view the SDGs? How is it relevant to you and your network, your friends, family?
So the SDGs are important to me. I was at the Youth Climate Summit, and I work with activists and advocates for change. And so the quote that I said, you can't fail by not doing anything, right? And at the time right now, if you're not doing anything, you're fine, right? Not really. I mean, we can all be better. So in ramping up your individual action, you're going to be making change. If it's like I actually in my house, I take out my trash once a month. I section off my plastics, my paper and everything, and I take my trash out once a month. So my impact is lowering every single day. And the amount of plastic that I'm utilizing, I try not to buy plastic. I try to figure out what I can do, to be better. As consumers, we need to educate ourselves. That's the key to drive the change that we want to see. And if you ask questions, you can even DM me if you have questions. If you're wondering about what fashion companies are better than others, I know that we have in the UN, we have the Fashion Pact, and a lot of companies are now a part of it. But just in 2018, we had Burberry burning things. We had, Gucci had sweatshops in Italy saying that they were made in Italy, but they still had these ramifications. And I don't think in 2 years, you're gonna see the change in those companies. And we need to hold those companies accountable for what they're doing. We need to ask questions. There has to be transparency there. So in doing something, it's better than doing nothing. And it's better than sitting there and just watching whatever happen. If we all work together, we can get to the goals that we need to get at and become the people that we want to see, right? And it all starts obviously with humanity. It's having empathy for other people in third world countries that are making your garments, and actually being responsible for the clothes that you are buying, and only buying if you actually love that piece and you're going to hold on to it and keep it, and being responsible for what you do in the life after that garment.
100% agree with that. Whenever I have 2 little kids, and despite their young age, whenever I come home with some new thing, my daughter, who's 8 years old, is like, "Mom, do you really need it?" Because she's actually thinking about the goals. The school educated them, so now I have toughest critic at home. And to you, Kimberly, you said, hold on a second. It's all about doing something for the world that my children are going to live in and eventually share with their own families. So can you link what you do, what drove you to do that, and how it's linked to the sustainability and sustainable development goals?
So my mother had a jewelry company, and that's how I got introduced to jewelry. And growing up, we always passed down pieces, and she always gave pieces to us for certain occasions, this idea of heirlooms. And when I had my own children, and I started to think about, and I started to become more aware of how things are made and where these materials are sourced from and how much plastic we were using, then I turned the eye to the industry that I grew up in. And when I learned about grown diamonds or, recycled gold, these things that are right there in front of you, and I didn't understand why that information wasn't out there for everybody. If I didn't know about it, why didn't people know about this, that we have an option to be more sustainable, to be more thoughtful? And then I started to think about what I was passing on to my children. What are they learning from me that they're going to do differently, not just in the pieces that we pass on, but in the lessons? And that's kind of the ethos of what the brand was founded on. And then from there, it was everything from the ground up. So not just the materials that are actually in our physical jewelry, but the practices that we use in our packaging and our bags are made from 5 recycled plastic water bottles, and we don't put out any plastic either. I think you make one small change or you notice one thing and it leads to the next thing. And I think everyone needs to realize that the effect of sometimes just starting with one thing.
Do you see change in the industry?
I see so much change. I mean, even just trying to do this and getting this off the ground, so many doors slammed in my face at first. I mean, grown diamonds, so what are you talking about, recycled gold or sustainably cultivated pearls, what does that mean? A lot of the doors that kind of slammed in my face to begin with have just kind of like swung back open. People are coming back around. I think it's because of the next generation that's coming up and because of the speed of education now, a lot more people know what these materials are, or the next generation is more interested to know how those materials are sourced and who is making it and what conditions are they in. So it definitely, especially for jewelry, it has a long way to go. But it's definitely, I'm hopeful in how much momentum we've seen behind the movement in general.
Perfect. Now, Amanda, I am going to read your quote, which is, you believe in environment karma. So when I was reading the state of fashion in 2020, there was a lot of focus on the new tech materials, the very alternative scientific ways of using the dyes. And I think it's exactly what you are trying to do, but I would like to understand a bit more the philosophy and vision of the company.
Satya means authenticity in Sanskrit, so that's why we believe in environment karma. Environment karma is everything that we deliver in the environment, they will back to us. And you see what happened now, the climate crisis and everything. So that's why we decide to rescue this millennial technique, which is a natural dye. So when our product goes to landfills, they will decompose faster and the dye doesn't doesn't harm the environment. And
Excellent. Another round of questions, Kimberly and Manda, perhaps Thania a bit later. How do you engage your customers? Like, what do you do to make sure that the customers understand what you are doing, what the environmental impact of your product is, and how do you measure your activities in this field?
It's hard, I think almost more than half of the people that buy KBH jewels come to us because they like the design. And I actually like that because it has to be product first. We don't want to sacrifice the quality of the product or the design because it's sustainable. So a lot of people find out, they like our jewelry, and then they come to us, and then they find out we're sustainable. And it's like, oh, wow. It's like if, kind of put two bananas out, most people would choose the organic one. But we try through our website, we try through social media, by doing these panels to try to. Education is the biggest piece.
I agree. Yeah, Amanda.
First of all, we want that our consumers came to us just because we are exclusive. We have a different design, and then they will discover that we are sustainable. Because now we believe that sustainability is an obligation. We don't have just, we are sustainable and then we are nice and then we are cool. So we want they come to us and then see our products and like before our products because we have a different design and then they discover we are sustainable.
Okay, Thania, what do you think that are key roadblocks in making a significant shift in the fashion industry? Like, what do we need to do?
I think consumers need to hold brands accountable. So education is key, and allowing the consumer to have that information available readily for them to be able to make decisions for themselves. I think there's a real lack. I know for me, having to be up here on, I could have been a fashion blogger. I just not even cared about anything. But I had to put myself in a position to educate people because there wasn't that person out there working in luxury and in beauty and just giving people information. So I feel like the way to shift that paradigm is through education and impact, and brands need they need to have transparency over their websites on what products, where the factories are, from the farmers to the factory supply chain to the store. And I'm meeting with all these major stores, and they want to shift the change, and so I'm trying to have them implement plans and work with the UN and just kind of figure out what their story is. And I can tell you, I can't say names, but major department stores are going to be dropping brands without sustainable practices because they see the need in the consumer growth to be more sustainable, and they need to be doing their part as well by having those products be available for consumers.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And you just reminded me that I wanted to also recognize Carrie Bennigan, who is the founder of Conscious Fashion Campaign, and Carrie, who introduced us to Fashinnovation. She is driving through her campaign the awareness and engagement of the fashion industry, of the customers, of the brands, of the buyers, with the Sustainable Development Goals. It's exactly what's needed, connecting those, empower the customers, empower those who are making the decisions. And now we have the last round of questions, and hopefully we will have a time for 1 or 2 questions. So, looking at 2020, this year, if you have to choose one word that will define your business, your area of fashion, what would it be and why? Kimberly.
One word.
Yeah, one word, yes.
It's a tough question. I think I just have to say change. I think this is the decade, if we don't make changes, that we're kind of getting to a place where we're not going to be able to turn around from. So, and I think people need to see that. And even with these crazy wildfires that are happening, this is all climate related, and it's affecting the health of everyone. I mean, you see so many autoimmune issues, and whether it's from the dyes or the pollution that these materials are putting into the environment, if we don't change, if we don't use our power, our purchasing power, to hold companies accountable. If we don't change, we're going to get to a place where we can't come back from, and we're very close.
Thank you. Amanda.
I believe, oh gosh, it's very difficult.
I know, this is not prepared, right? Not,
Yeah.
not tricky question.
Oh gosh. Can you go first?
Of course I can go. For my word, it would be impact. And I want to challenge all of you guys, all of my peers, to create an impact within your own household, within your peers, and challenge everyone to be activists. Consumers are activists for the future.
Thank you. Amanda, it can be anything relevant to the business.
Yeah, for us, it's art, because everything starts with art. And doing a different design and make natural dyes is a kind of art. So if you don't have, I don't know, if we don't have art, we don't have anything.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's all the time we have.